Hi, my name is Mackenzie Dolan. I'm here to do a chapter review on chapters 8 through 14. The first chapter is chapter 8. This is one on app development. Development is the process of creating apps from the idea stage to distribution. I also learned about the software development lifecycle, which is also called the SDLC. I created a little diagram on the right in Canva on the different phases. You have phase 1, which is planning. You form a team here, you allocate resources, review and approve requests. Then you move on to the analysis phase. This is the feasible study, detailed analysis, and then you create the system proposals. Then you move on to the design phase. You acquire hardware, language, and tools and create the prototype. Then you move into the implementation phase. This is where you develop the app with tools, install and test, conversion to new products. And then finally, you move into the support and security phase. This is app maintenance. You monitor security, performance, and testing. I also learned about a syntax, which is rules for writing instructions. And then I learned about the different generations of languages. The first one is machine language. This is the first gen. They use binary code. And then you move on to the assembly language, which is second gen. These use symbolic instruction codes. Then you move on to procedural language, which is third gen. These use a series of English-like words to write instructions. And then you move into HDLs, which are fourth gen. They use graphical environment and combinations of English-like instructions, graphs, icons, and symbols. And then finally, you move on to your 5GLs. These are your fifth generation. They provide a graphical environment in which AI attempts to solve problems. And now we're moving into chapter 9. This is one on web development. I learned about the HTML, which specifies the contents of a website. Under that is the World Wide Web Consortium, which is the W3C. It oversees standards for HTML. We're currently in HTML5. That's the current version. And then we're moving into the CSS, which is the cascading style sheet. These specify the format and appearance of content. Then we're moving into JavaScript, which is a language for writing scripts to control a web page's behavior. Moving on, we're going into the content management system, which is also known as the CMS. This is software that lets a group of users maintain and publish content. They offer updates, enhancements, plugins, and different themes. And chapter 9 continued. I just did a little comparison between an HTML and an XML. An HTML describes content and how to present it. An XML describes data without specifying how to present it. HTML stores layout information in a text format for browsers to interpret. The XML stores data in text format to share between applications. HTML uses predefined tags to describe content placement, and then XML uses customized tags to describe data and context. Moving into chapter 10, this was about networking. A network is a system of two or more devices connected by wires, cables, wireless signals, and a telecommunication system. I learned about the network elements, which are the node switch, and the router. The router is a device that connects two or more networks and directs information flow. Then we learned about the network types, which are wired networks, wireless networks, intranet. This is the private network for use by authorized individuals. And then we moved into the extranet, which allows outsiders to access some of the company's network. And then we move into the virtual private network, which is also called your VPN. I also learned about the two types of IP addresses. There's an IPv4. This is kind of outdated. They used to use it, but it couldn't support enough. So they moved into the IPv6, which supports more than 340 undecillion addresses. And then we're moving into chapter 10. This is still about networking. I just typed a bunch of many risks when connecting to a network. You have a rootkit, which gains administration, level access to a computer or network. And then you have spyware, which is tracking and transmitting personal information or changes to your computer settings. And then a denial of service, which is DOS attack, overload. the network traffic so that the server can provide services. And then you have disturbed denial of services, which is DDoS attack, type of DOS, using multiple computers to attack. And then you have a zombie, which a device becomes infected with malware, used to control the device remotely. And then finally, there's evil twin, which is a normal-looking, fraudulent Wi-Fi network used by hackers. Now we're moving into chapter 11. This was on digital communication. Digital communication is the transmission of data, instructions, and information from one computer or mobile device. I learned about archiving, which is the practice of moving email messages to a file or folder separate from your active email. Webinar, which is short for web-based seminar. It's a presentation and audience accesses over the web. You have things like lectures, workshops, different demonstrations that your job site might do. And then you move into a social curation, which allows users to share and save links to websites. The examples include Dig and Pinterest. And then you have an interest-based network, which targets to a particular audience. Some examples of this are home design, house, idea sharing, which would be Pinterest, sports, which is Rooter, fitness, which is Fitocracy, social causes, which is Kara's, and books, which is Goodreads. Now we're moving into chapter 12. This is about digital transformation, which is the integration of digital technologies. These would include business activities, organizational cultures, and customer experiences. Then we're moving on to cloud computing. This is when a person or business pays a fee to use someone else's hardware to store files, connect resources across distances, perform tasks such as running an app. Then we're moving into as a service. This is a function or a resource provided through cloud service. It's distributed online for a monthly or annual fee. This would be like Google Docs, Box, or Zoom. And then you have the firewall as a service, FWASC, and then you have database as a service, ransomware as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. And then we move into the 3 C's of e-commerce, which is content, community, and context. With content, that's if it's relevant; community, it's personalized customer relationships; and then context, which adapts to a customer preference. And then we also learned about artificial intelligence, which is AI. It's really big right now. The goal is to minimize the gap between what humans and computers can do. It's a chat box and a digital assistant. It responds to verbal commands or questions to try to provide an answer for you. Now we're moving into chapter 13. This is about databases. A database enables you to create, access, retrieve, and generate reports. Databases organize the data, make it accessible, and keep it safe. And then we learned about relational database, which is ideal for data that can be organized into tables where each record stores the same pieces of information. Most are managed using the SQL, and then the non-relational database is unstructured or differently structured database. There's no SQL databases. Some examples of this would be MongoDB, CouchDB, Oracle, NoSQL database, etc. And then I learned about the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, which is protecting a database from authorized access. And then the second would be integrity, which is protecting data from unauthorized changes, and availability, which is ensuring data is accessible by authorized users when needed. And then finally, in chapter 14, we learned about the digital ethics and lifestyle. Digital ethics is a set of legal and moral guidelines that govern the use of technology. We learned about the acceptance use policy, which is AUP. This is a document that lists guidelines and repercussions of use of the internet and other company digital sources. This clarifies what's a fireable offense. It doesn't cover only illegal, but also unethical, and it covers actions that might waste your time or make data insecure. The technology addiction, which is huge in this day and age. It's when a person is obsessed with using technology and feels anxiety when they're away from their device. The personally identifiable information, which is PII. This is your social security number, your email, phone number, driver's license number, credit card number. And then with a data breach, this is when any unauthorized collection or distribution of data. And then this is my works cited. And that's everything. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.